Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. This week, we are jumping back into the Division III coaches, jumping over to the President's Athletic Conference. But before that, let me tell you where you can find us on the social medias and where you can listen to us or watch us. You can watch on YouTube. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor if you have the app. And then on the social media side, it's Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And all of those are the same except for Instagram, where you're going to go dingo_talk. This week, we are going to Grove City to talk to Coach Andrew DiDonato. Very interesting story that I'm really excited to ask him some questions. One, he's a South Hills kid from Bridgeville, went to South Fayette, then goes to Grove City. He's a two-sport athlete there. We're going to find out why he got into coaching, how he made a trip to Buffalo, and then the first of two coming back to his alma mater to coach. Going back to South Fayette, having a pretty good career as the offensive coordinator there, and then moving on to his college alma mater at Grove City to become the head coach there. And this team, a lot of people will call them very simple. 4 straight ECAC Bowl appearances and 4 straight wins. So maybe simple is better. The other big questions we're going to ask, again, we're going to talk about why Division III, what makes the PAC different, what separates Grove City from the other colleges in the conference, amongst other things, and then stick around for the end for the editorial with Serenity Brown. But let's talk to Coach DiDonato. What's going on, Chuckleheads? Welcome back. Here with Coach Andrew DiDonato, head coach at Grove City College. Although, from what we said here in the first version of this recording, you guys could be heading to the university status soon with the master's programs that have come to Grove City. Welcome to Dingo Talk.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Glad to be here. Absolutely.
It's nice to have another South Hills guy. You know, you're a Bridgeville guy. I grew up in Scott Township. You went to South Fayette. I spent a lot of years going to Chartiers Valley. Ended up graduating from Plum. Pretty successful there as a quarterback at South Fayette High School. Being recruited by Division one AA, Division One. I think it's now Sub Bowl. I don't even think they give it the. So you have that. You have some Division II schools, but Grove City stood out. Now, what made you make the decision to go play for Coach Smith at Grove City?
Yeah, it was really neat. I mean, I was blessed at South Fayette to come in at the right time and play quarterback 4 years there. And yeah, by the time I got to my senior year, I was looking at a couple 1AA schools, especially like Patriot League with some of the academic, money coupled with football. There were some pretty nice situations there. And my older brother went to Grove City, so he's 5 years older than me, and really loved the experience. Biggest thing for him to seeing the people. I mean, my whole family, got to know Coach Smith and the whole coaching staff really well. And so when I always said my senior year, I said, I don't get a Division I scholarship, I'm going to Grove City. Kind of said that all along, and it had some really great opportunities. But at the end of the day, I think with the family connections, and then faith was a big factor, academics, football, kind of the whole package. Knowing, all those boxes were already checked for my brother. At that point, I knew what I was getting at Grove City, and knew I'd have a chance to compete as a freshman. So that was a big part of it too. I wanted to have that opportunity, and all those factors coupled together, kind of what led me to ultimately choosing Grove City College.
Well, and it was a pretty successful 4 years for you as a quarterback there. You hold a couple records still. If I'm not mistaken, yards, or is it career records? I think the single game records got broken, but the career records are still there, right?
Yeah, well, actually, our 2021 bowl game, our quarterback Josh East, in his last game, the bowl game, broke the career yardage mark. So I think I still have a couple, but that's pretty neat, actually. You think about records. So Josh East, our quarterback, over a 4-year run here, 2018 through 2021, broke most of those. And it was pretty good, though, because Cody Gustafson, our All-American receiver who broke all of our receiving records, well, one of those was my older brother's touchdown receiving record. So when you get to call the plays to get your older brother wiped out of the record books, But fortunately, we've had a lot of success here offensively the last couple of years. So I think most of the records here have been rewritten over this time.
And I'm sure that leads to a very interesting conversation come Thanksgiving. Hey, just so you know, there's a record there you had.
Yeah, well, I made sure I let him know ahead of time. I figured it was about to go, so that night before, I got to send him a message and say, "You got about 24 hours left in the record book." But no, it's been a fun run, and yeah, I mean, I think going back to your question about coming to Grove City, really came in at the right time there as well. Got to play as a freshman most of the time. When you play career marks, because you came in at the right time and got to play a lot of snaps and but it's pretty neat to see the group we've had here the last couple of years rewrite all those records. That's for sure.
Now, why business management?
I my father's a minister, my brother's a minister, and I thought that, and actually went to hear Bobby Bowden speak. I got to hear him speak. There was a fellowship of Christian athletes. He was heavily involved in that, and he actually just talked about coaching as ministry, and that had a profound impact on me. Just the role of a coach, and I got to hear Billy Graham, famous evangelist, say a coach will impact more young people in one season than most people will in a lifetime. And I just heard that. I mean, I thought in my own life how important coaches were for me. I said, I'm gonna go the coaching route, and you don't really major in coaching, so I figured I'd go business, and it was pretty neat though. But going business here, I knew I wanted to be involved in athletics. I got to do a marketing internship with the Steelers after my sophomore year, work game day for 3 years. You got to be on the field there when Polamalu had that pick versus the Ravens to seal it, and so really went business, knowing the flexibility to coach. And when I coached
Mm-hmm.
high school ball for 3 years, I actually did medical sales, and I knew people who had done that. I didn't think teaching was for me. But I knew I could get a business degree and still, if I ended up coaching high school, still make that work. So,
Mm-hmm.
all those factors kind of what led to, I'm going to major in business, but knowing all along that I wanted to coach.
So when you leave Grove City, you get that chance pretty quick, right? You end up going up to Buffalo for a year.
Yep.
Season.
Yep.
How did that come about?
Yeah, so our offensive coordinator here at the time, he had run camps with a gentleman who had just been hired as the offensive coordinator at the University of Buffalo. Because when I was graduating, that was just when Jeff Quinn got hired at the University of Buffalo, and Jeff Quinn had been with Brian Kelly for 22 years, and they were at Cincinnati together when they had that number 3 team in the nation with Tony Pike and
Oh yeah,
just that Marty Gilliard. I mean, they just had such a special team there. Actually Kelsey, I mean, that whole crew. And so when Brian Kelly took the Notre Dame job, Jeff Quinn took, the UB job. And because of a connection with my coordinator and the coordinator who had just got hired, he told him, hey, my quarterback here wants to go into coaching. You should get him up there as a GA. And it just so happened they were coming through recruiting at that time. And I actually met the offensive coordinator and another coach in the student union here at Grove City to kind of do a face-to-face there. And, fortunately, it all worked out and got to have my coaching career start at a University of Buffalo and to learn from that staff. I mean, how successful, I mean, all of Brian Kelly's system, Jeff Quinn, I believe, the best I've ever heard talk about offensive line play and just that whole entire staff to get that opportunity right out of school. Just very fortunate again to be in the right place, and unfortunately, our offensive coordinator had the right connection there.
Well, but there is a saying about the WPIAL guys. You can leave the WPIAL, but for some reason, there's a large handful of them, specifically from right around that the graduating class of 05 till about the class of 12 now, I guess we can say, have really come back into coaching in the WPIAL. You, similar to those guys, made your way back down to Western Pennsylvania to coach at Peters Township for a year. And what was that experience like? Because that's a different style of football than you were accustomed to at South Fayette.
Yeah, it was really neat how that came about. I mean, my wife went to Grove City. She was working in downtown Pittsburgh, and I was up in Buffalo, and had some opportunities to get back involved with the Steelers at the time, and then just with the marketing and then to coach high school. So I moved back. We had got engaged, and Rich Piccinini at Peters Township gave me an opportunity. It was really neat. Jason Gilden coached our linebackers, obviously Steelers sack leader legend. and I just share that. Just a great group of men to get to work with there, and it was pretty neat because at the time, WPIAL, the 4 classifications, and I know a lot of people want to see them go back to that, but to get to coach Quad A, I mean, South Fayette at that time, we were a 2A school, and just wanting to coach, get back in the South Hills of Pittsburgh and move back into the area, and then to coach at the Quad A level, and knowing I'd be around, great men. That's what led me to head back to Peters, and I really cherished my year, there at Peters. And ironically, the quarterback I coached at Peters, his younger brothers now are starting quarterback here at Grove City. And
Full
his younger
circle
brother,
moment.
yeah, he was our ball boy. He was only whatever it was, 7 years old at the time. And pretty ironic, he's now our starting quarterback. So very, very appreciative of that year at Peters because it's helping our team now at Grove City.
So you're back in the WPIAL, and Coach Rossi comes up or approaches you about coming over to be the offensive coordinator, and not just an offensive coordinator, because when you break down a 2-year stretch, you guys went 32-0. Brett Brumbaugh was one of the best high school quarterbacks we had all seen up until, honestly, he played a different style of football that I don't think people really he was just a bowling ball, but could throw. He had a cannon. He could run, but he wasn't, I wouldn't say fast. He was just he was not afraid to lower his shoulder if he needed to. Probably not to the excitement of the offensive coordinator. But so how did the 3 years or 2 years at South Fayette, how did the 2 years go? And what led to the success?
Yeah, first of all, Joe Rossi, I think, is as good as they come in this profession. Fortunately, he's one of my closest friends in this profession. We talk weekly during the season still, and we had talked ball even when I had took that opportunity at Peters, and he would always tell me, "I got to get you over here," and really everything fell into place. I mean, to get to go back to your alma mater and coach was an opportunity that I wanted to do, and fortunately, again, you talk about right place. I mean, that 2013 was my first year coordinating at South Fayette, and we just had a special team. Justin Watson, who will be playing on Sunday. I mean, he's a wide receiver for the Chiefs, and obviously Brumbaugh and that name is well known in the Pittsburgh area. And just had so many great players, and at the time, Joe Rossi, the defensive coordinator who had been there, had left to take another head coaching job in the WPIAL. So Joe knew that he wanted to go over to the defense, and fortunately was comfortable to hand over the keys. Very, very good situation to be handed, that's for sure. And fortunately, he felt comfortable at that time to hand things over to myself. And and that South Fayette teams we had 2013, 2014, just so special. Specifically, as you said, throwing the football. And it's funny you mentioned about Brett Brumbaugh, because on our staff now, our special teams coordinator is Bill Brest, and he was the head coach at Hickory for a number of years. Well, that's the team we played twice in the state semifinals to go to Hershey. And it's funny, for Christmas, he and his wife got me a picture frame. There was actually a play. They dropped all 11 guys into coverage because they didn't want Brumbaugh throwing them anymore. I've never seen anything like it in the history of my coaching. But we were just talking about that, Bill and I, and he had given me that picture. But no, just 32-0, 2 state titles. South Fayette, we had never won a state title, prior to that 2013 season. So to get to go back to your high school alma mater, be a part of doing something that had never been done before in school history, just pretty special to get to be a part of. Forever grateful for Joe Rossi and everything that he taught me, which prepared me for, step into a head coaching role myself.
Well, and you talk about going to your high school alma mater, which a lot of coaches probably think, if you get a head coaching job or even a coordinator job at your high school, wow, that it'd be awesome to go back and be a part of your alma mater. You not only get to do that at the high school level, but then you get the call to come up to join Coach Smith's coaching staff in 15. Now, why was that the right time, did you feel, to move to the college game or back to the college game, I guess, because your coaching career started in college? And why Grove City? Why was that obviously with the connections there, it must have been a kind of I like it up there.
Yeah. Well, I'd say, getting that University of Buffalo experience was pretty amazing and special. And I remember talking to my wife and saying, I loved it. I mean, I'll never trade that year for anything, learned so much. But I told her, my heart is in small college football. I mean, that's what I grew up watching my brother play. That's what I got to play. And I think for everybody, it's finding, where do I feel most comfortable? Even when I was
Mhm.
at the high school level, which I cherish that, something about small college football that I've just always loved, I feel. And so I knew I wanted to get back into small college football. And I had talked to some other Pac teams back when I was coaching high school as different opportunities, coaching, assistant wise. And it just so happened, Coach Smith, he had been here 32 years as head football coach, and he announced that he was going to go one more and hang it up and ready to retire. And the new president had come in, and with his support, Coach Smith's support, they felt when Coach Smith is officially done that I was the right guy to take over and follow a legend who had been here so many years. So that's what brought me back to Grove City. First of all, knowing I always wanted to come back here. To be honest, this
Mhm.
was my dream job. And you didn't expect that early, that opportunity. But with Coach Smith retiring, them wanting a younger coach to turn things over to, because we've only had 4 head coaches since 1956. So, pretty special there. So tried to use the Steelers model, 3 since '69. We've had 4 since '56. And, fortunately, with how everything aligned, it was ready for me to come and be the head coach in waiting for 1 year and then take over as head coach.
And you implement the brick by brick mentality, which
Yeah.
I can tell you there was a group of us in 16 when we graduated from Bethany, and we started seeing the presence on social media and the be a part of the foundation and the brick by brick. It caught our attention. It was something because you know everybody that was involved in the PAC, you kind of just keep an eye on everybody's social medias as they come across your feed. Why brick by brick? What was so important about letting each of those guys know that they were the foundation pieces to what has now been the last 4 years, 4 straight ECAC, not only appearances, but victories?
Yeah. Well, it was really back 10 years ago to my time at South Fayette. Got to hear from a guy who had done work with the Packers and Crimson Tide. And essentially, he talked about vision, process, love. And this guy just powerful. He talked to us before a state championship game at South Fayette. And it's a motivational speaker that's been all over, but just talked about the importance of having a vision, embracing a process towards it, and then what love looks like in the context of an organization or team. And it was amazing. It's almost like when you buy a new car, you see it everywhere. And I'm reading Walt Disney's biography, and I'm seeing those 3 words everywhere through it. Sam
Mhm.
Walton, how he put up Walmart, vision, process, love, David in the Bible, Moses in the Bible. I was always told, prepare to be a leader. So when a leadership opportunity comes, you're ready to take it. So I knew if I ever got to be a head coach, we're going to center everything around those 3 principles. And coming back to Grove City, this whole campus is brick. I mean, you can't get away from it. The athletic buildings, the dorm rooms, the academic building, I mean,
Mhm.
everything. So we tell our guys when we say brick by brick, it's just a reminder that every building started with a blueprint, meaning someone had to have a vision for what that building would look like. They can't be built one overnight. They're built one brick at a time. It's a process to have this blueprint come to fruition. And
Mhm.
mortar holds it together, which represents love. So really, brick by brick to us is just that picture that look in everything. What's the vision for what we're trying to do here? What's the process to get there? And what is everybody's role in love? And if we can answer those 3 questions, we feel we have vision, process, love for our offense, for our defense, for our special teams, for our strength philosophy, for our academic game plan. So brick by brick really is just a catchy little way to talk about vision, process, love, and that's why it's been so instrumental to us since 2016.
And what has led to, first off, what are you looking for? If you're talking to a parent right now, as we sit today, what are you looking for in a player and a student athlete?
Yeah, we have a very clear vision. It's to glorify God in the pursuit of earning a degree, building lasting relationships, and competing for PAC championships. So, in that vision, there's spiritual reasons people come here, social reasons, mental, meaning academic, right major, or physical, the football. And
Mhm.
so, really, all we're looking for, is we meet one of those things for the young man? I think there's so many great schools out there, so many options, and sitting with a young man today, and he's looking for a great 4-year engineering degree and a chance to play football. And we have 4-year engineering football. Hey, when I look at our vision, it aligns with some of the things that you're looking for. That's really all it is. And hey, there's some times where maybe we don't have the right major, or maybe, something doesn't work out. But really, I just look at that vision, and with every family I sit with is, hey, if that's something you're looking for, one of those areas, and Grove City's a good match, then we'll start talking what brick by brick would look like for that area.
Now, similar question, but more focused on Grove City. Why Grove City? What can Grove City provide for a student, and what comforts can a parent know that when their student is at Grove City, that they're gonna have or be protected and taken care of?
Yeah, that's where I look at it, and I always shared about my wedding day how there were 5 guys in my wedding that played football here at Grove City. And also there, I mean, I think about, there were professors. I mean, I wouldn't be the head coach here if it wasn't for a couple professors I know who put in an amazing word for me. I know my wife, same thing in accounting. The professors there were so instrumental in her getting her first job and things of that nature. I already shared with you the University of Buffalo, the role of a coach. So relationships, that social area of coach, player, professor. I went to a wedding this summer, and the guy had 6 guys in his wedding he played with. I'm at the reception. There were 4 of us coaches there and 3 professors at the reception together. So when I look at, the social brick of relationship with coach, player, professor, our career services office is ranked top 10 in the country academically. Football, obviously 4 straight bowl wins, 4 straight 8 or more win seasons, and all in a place where faith's going to be at the center of it. I think for that 4 areas of spiritual, social, mental, physical, it's the right fit for, a lot of the young men we've been blessed to coach here the last 7 years.
Area, do you come down into the WPIAL? Is there a specific area that you like to recruit, or is it kind of scattered?
Yeah, it is scattered. I mean, we had a all conference safety from Florida, our best guard our tackle the last couple of years from Georgia. So we have had all over. But in 2016, in our vision, when we talk about the PAC, President's Athletic Conference, when we got here, we had come off a couple winless seasons, and we started looking at how do we compete with some of these teams at the top. And before we could do it on the field, it had to be off the field. In one area we identified was we were not competing as well as we needed to in Pennsylvania. And we felt we got to compete in PA first. At the time, we had way less guys from PA than some of the teams we felt we wanted to compete with. But you talk about 2019 when we went 9-2, we had jumped to have the most guys in PA from on our roster than those teams we were comparing ourselves to. So we do recruit nationally, but I was told back when I took the job, you got to win your backyard first, and that's why Pennsylvania has been so instrumental in our turnaround here.
And then last question before we get into some fun questions. I got a couple WPIAL questions for you because you threw some things at me that they struck a thing up here. Why Division III? What do people need to know about Division III that maybe doesn't, because it doesn't get the publicity that D1 and D2 get because there's not scholarships. But D3 is very instrumental in a lot of high school athletes wanting to continue their careers and still get a very good degree.
Yeah. I would just say, number one, I think most people don't realize how good Division III athletics and Division III football is. I mean, if you come to some of the games we've had the last couple of years, I mean, it's been the battles. I mean, there's been our best player, the Rookie of the Year, defensive player, Fab 22 guy. People who are familiar with the WPIAL, you're talking about the best 22 players and guys of that nature. We're going against a team that has Division one AA transfers and the battles, and anyone who's seen us play. I mean, our receiver, Cody Gustafson, I had higher levels come and watch us. They were just trolling over this receiver running routes. So I would say number one, and I'll say this too, when I came back into the conference back in 2015, 2016, I couldn't believe in just however many years, 6, 7 years since I graduated, how much higher the competitiveness of this conference got. I mean, it was unbelievable. So, number one, how competitive it is. And secondly, these guys are doing it without getting full athletic scholarship. So there is no drop off in the commitment level. I mean, what our guys do in the off season, they're in the weight room early morning, no different than, the guys who are on full rides at bigger schools. But
Absolutely.
they're doing it all without that athletic scholarship in some cases. So I think all levels of football are special. And I just think, for our guys, like we said, to get this thing turned around from where we are to where we are now, there is such a level of commitment 12 months out of the year. These guys just love the game. And I'm sure all guys do at all level, but why I love small college football is the competitiveness, how much it takes to be good at this level, no different than it does at higher levels. And you're really doing it without any athletic incentive from a financial standpoint, from a scholarship standpoint. And to me, I just think that's pretty special. It's why I love work and getting to work with the guys we get to work with here and in Division III as a whole.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. The players not receiving athletic scholarships. I've spoken to a bunch host of the OAC coaches, and they all I asked them that same question, and they had the Mike Tomlinism, volunteers not hostages. And sometimes some of these guys that coach, they saw Division I players that they knew that they were done. They had kind of lost the love for the game, but they didn't want to lose. They were fearful of losing the scholarship, so they stayed. So that's one of those things I think hits the nail on the head when you're talking about Division III. Is these guys wake up at 6 a.m. for workouts, just like the Division I, Division II schools. They're on the field at 3 o'clock. They're off the field at 6 o'clock. I mean, it's still football. You can only change the game so much.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great way to put it.
So these are our curveball questions. It's a rapid fire. There's 4 of them. If you could live anywhere, where would it be and why?
I love Western Pennsylvania. I mean, I really do. And it's because of family. My family's an hour in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, and my wife grew up in Butler, so we're only 20 minutes from her folks. So we see them, as well, and with family. So Western PA because of family.
What's the most important lesson you've learned through your career so far?
Focus on your vision, not your circumstance. That's the number one phrase I say every day, especially when you come into a situation, circumstance. I don't want a game in a while, but in every area, get a vision. Circumstances will be thrown at you in life, but number one lesson is focus on your vision, not your circumstance.
If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
I'd be in full-time ministry. I mean, I love, just getting to help people, talk about joy and peace and freedom. So just like my dad and brother, I'd go into full-time ministry.
The last one is a 2-parter. The first part is the best compliment you've ever received.
Another coach, actually, when we beat them in the turnaround, said, your team eats adversity for lunch, he said. And when he said it like that, your team eats adversity for lunch. And from a coach I highly respect, to me, that said, focus on your vision, not your circumstance, that we were actually living that out. So I think since I've been here in my 7 years, another coach telling me that meant a lot.
And the other part to that question, what's an insult you're proud of?
An insult. I would write the play calling. We don't. We're pretty simple in what we do. So as I've been told, you guys only run a few plays, huh? I mean, in mockery type play. But I don't know. I mean, I've gotten a lot of insults, so I'm sure we all have. But first thing that popped in my mind, just I think we always say discipline equals freedom. So if we can get really good at what we do, so we get, I think just pretty much coming back to that simplicity. That insult, but we kind of feed off that and take pride in how simple we are.
4 straight ECAC Bowl appearances and victories, I think, says maybe we should all start looking at being simple.
That's our philosophy, that's for sure.
Last the last couple of things. We're just, since it's two WPIAL guys, I just want to throw some things at you. You pointed out that obviously people want, there's a cry in Western Pennsylvania for to drop back down to the 4 classifications as opposed to the 6. I'm not in that boat. I think that it is great that you got some of the bigger schools, North Allegheny, Central, Seneca, playing against similar pools, I guess you will say.
Yeah.
What I don't like is that as the WPIAL, as there's a team that I believe is a AA school, they continue to win. And for some reason, we move them up classifications thinking they're not going to win, and they continue to win. Coach, at what point, it's a little bit of a loaded question, at what point do we have to think about the safety of those players when you're moving them up such an extreme amount in classifications? Or does that not really matter? When I feel like there has to be, because the numbers are just so different between what a team in 5A, quad A, or 3A has on a 2A school. I just.
Yeah. I think you bring up a lot of great points there. First, about going from 4 to 6, I'll make a point of that and come back to the safety, which I think is such a great point. I mean, probably because going to South Fayette and coaching there, I see everything through the lens of South Fayette there. And I just remember in the 4, just the great rivalries we had. And I think at first, when all that got changed, South Fayette was driving to schools that we had never even played before. It was really good to see them get back in a conference with teams from the South Hills. I do think a big thing of high school football that makes it special is those local rivalries, traditions. My brother was at South Fayette. South Fayette was single A, but Fort Cherry's right over the hill. I mean, that was such a rivalry. And then for us, Seton LaSalle, South Park, to see all those guys, on a Saturday out and then getting to play them on Friday, there's something special about high school sports. So I think that if that can happen, it's great. But to your point, I mean, in football as a whole, safety's been brought up quite a bit. And in your point, with high school football and the classifications, I think it's a positive thing in all areas to really make that a factor. I mean, I think for sure that, in anything, if there's an opportunity for us to make it, safer for any guys, let's do it. And let's find a way. We got to coach something different, and we're all for coaching it different. And same thing, I think, when guys are dividing up schedules and, taking all the factors, trying to keep some rivalries, but also, looking at competitiveness. I mean, I'm in full support of all those conversations that have happened. And I know, whether it's the classifications or teams moving up, if they're looking at safety and those who are looking at those things way more than I am, are truly, I trust that we're doing what's best for the for safety and making the best high school experience for kids. So I really welcome all those discussions. I think it's a positive thing.
What's the biggest change that you've noticed from when you were playing to now? Like, is there something that you remember as a player that you were like, wow, because there's a couple drills in my head right now that I can just, we would not be allowed to do those now. They're just gone. Whereas now there is an emphasis on safety. So what's the biggest change that you've seen?
Yeah, and I think the number one is the amount of time actually spent on the field, and that's practice time. I mean, I think about, high school, it was all 3-a-days for myself. I'm sure you went through the same thing. And, college, it was more 2-a-days at that point, when I got into playing here at Grove City. But, we were on the field way more than we were in the meeting room. So the biggest thing that changed is that is flipped. And, now we're on the field a few hours and we're still going all day in camp, but, most of that time is actually in the weight room or I'm sorry, in film room, weight room, in the walkthrough sessions. So the biggest change is less time on the field, but I'd say the benefit to that, we always look for the positives in it, is I just feel the ability for your guys to have such a clear understanding of what you're trying to do. Just the amount of things we keep it simple from how many things we run, but our guys know every detail, every check we need. There's one concept and 12, 15 different things could happen for our guys and what they end up doing in one concept. I just think the amount of time for them to truly grasp why you do what you do. So I think that's the biggest difference. Less time on the field, but the positive side to that is, I think our guys really get to spend a lot more time understanding the game, which has been a fun thing to get to do with them in the classroom.
And then the last question I've asked everybody in this season 3, was there a question you were expecting to get that I did not ask? And if so, how would you have answered it?
Oh, that's a good question. See, I think that's a great one. I just think, um, maybe just about the last couple of years that we've had. I mean, you talked about it. You definitely brought that up, and I just think just a bowl win and maybe what that meant for our program, and 2018 was the first postseason win in school history. 125 years, and to get to be a part of that. And probably what I thought you'd ask is, what did it feel like to end that losing streak? So we had a 33 game losing streak. We ended in 2017. I usually get that quite a bit too. And that night, I mean, to end that 33 game losing streak in 2017, all the students to rush the field. I'll say this, and I think this is a good maybe lesson for everyone in sports. When we ended that losing streak, I had never been a part of, people use that word community. I
Mm-hmm.
had never had a better experience of that in my life, because when you're going to end a streak, they didn't care. I mean, I have a picture where a guy who played every snap on his side of the ball and a guy who didn't play one both had the same expression. Every parent, didn't matter if you're everybody in that stadium, administrator, coach, parent, player, they cared about one thing: Grove City College getting a W. And I remind my guys of that every year in camp. I never let them forget that. We always say each of us needs all of us. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just something special sports gives you. And I think that moment was the picture when you end that losing streak where no one cares about anything else except one thing, and that's going out and winning a football game. So actually at the end of every win we have, I always have three parting words for our team. And the first one is always congratulations on winning a college football game. And we talk about that team that ended the losing streak. So to answer your question, I think one question I probably would have expected, maybe could have expected, was how did it feel to end that streak? And how I would answer it is, community, when everybody's just cares about winning a game, it's pretty special, that environment you could have. And that's something we try to recreate and make sure our guys never forget.
Well, Coach, thank you for taking time to sit down with us. I'm going to have to get up to a Grove City game. I got a couple of, like I said earlier, I got a couple of OAC games that I have to make my way out. It's a different conference. I've never seen. We
Yep.
played Mount Union a couple times at Bethany, so I got to see Mount Union, but I'd like to see some of the other teams. But I will try to make my way up to a Grove City game. Best of luck this season, and best of luck as you continue this coaching career of yours.
I appreciate that. You come up, let me know. Would love to see you. And honestly, thank you for what you're doing for Division III football. As you alluded to, it is special D3 football, and for you to take the time and give us coaches an opportunity to talk about it, it is greatly appreciated. So thank you for the work you're doing as well.
I appreciate that. And for you guys, you can, if you want to stay around, the editorial with Serenity Brown, where she tells me all the things that I messed up, which your last comment, I'm sure she'll have loads to say about, because that's what she looks for, and that's why we have that segment. If you've made it this far and you'd like to stay up to date with us, you can follow us on the social medias. That's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook. And there is a big announcement. We have finally won the Instagram war. There was somebody else that had DingoTalk. They had DingoTalk, so I had to go Dingo_talk. We're staying as Dingo_talk, but DingoTalk is no longer. So I will not reference it anymore because it's done. So, Coach, thank you very much. I think you got a basketball game to get to.
Yes, I'll get to catch the end of it.
And we'll catch you next week, Chuckleheads.
What's going on, Chuckleheads, and welcome to the editorial with Serenity Brown. I am Carlo Guadagnino. That's Serenity Brown. We just watched Grove City's head football coach, Andrew DiDonato. What do we got? We got this week.
It was a pretty good episode. The biggest thing I do want to just say, it's probably going to be a short little segment here, because the only thing to point out is don't have your computer to the side of you.
Oh, you noticed that, did you?
Yeah, I did notice that.
No, let's try something new. We're trying something new.
I didn't like it.
Okay. Well,
I didn't like it.
all right. Did you learn something about, I mean, that's a school that's also in our conference. We saw a lot of things at Bethany, good, bad, or indifferent from the football side. Did you learn anything different about this first school that we went down the line? Do you have any interest in going to Grove City to watch a football game?
I will go.
There's outlets. There's outlets.
I'll go to wherever you want to go visit. And I do also want to say, because I noticed at the ending, you had a lot to say about me, and I don't know why you think I'm just here to point out the bad things.
Well, you haven't yet.
That you do. Exactly.
Except for notes. Get your facts straight. It's the only two things. Yeah, but you're supposed to be like, this is a critique. You're supposed to critique this.
Yeah, and that's why I told you don't have your computer to the side of you.
Oh, all right. Well, that's a good critique. I honestly, I saw it. I did. Yeah. I did a couple edits myself, just kind of toying around with some things, and I noticed it.
You didn't look. You
did not. In
the whole time.
The cool thing about this episode is, and we're going to see it a couple times in this season, going to both of his alma maters, both at the high school level, and then getting the opportunity not to be the head coach at the high school level, but then to get the head coaching job at Grove City. And I really like the brick by brick mentality. Yeah. Also, the biggest insult one. That was a big one.
That was a good answer.
Calling us simple. And it's like, well, they've gone to 4 straight bowl games and won them. So
obviously what they're doing is working.
Is there anything that you found in his answers, if there's anywhere you could live? Because those were your choosing. This was the first episode that we used your questions.
No, I know that.
They're right there. Right? Bang, 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 bang.
Today, watch the episode, so I know what the questions are. No, I think he gave very good answers to the questions. Most people, you ask the question and they're like, "What?" But it seems like he didn't even.
Good back. It was a good back and forth. Yeah. I enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate him at the end there. Thanking me for what I do. All I do is sit in front of a camera and talk to people, though. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, but like you said, you were giving D3. They're a platform.
D3 needs more of a platform. There are a lot of other good programs out there that do things for D3 football, but I just feel I felt that we've muddled through some of these. Some just going all over the place, and I like that this season so far we have stayed
on theme.
To the most part. I mean, we're going to have more, I'm hoping to have more media guys as we get through as a nice breakup. But that being said, do you have anything else? No. All right. Well, you guys, if you made it this far, you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on with Dingo Talk, you can follow us on all of the social media platforms. That's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. All of those are the same except for the Instagram, which is dingo_talk. And that's that. We'll catch you next week with we're going to be staying in the PAC. So we will catch you next week for, I don't know who we're going with yet. I haven't decided. So we'll see you next week, Chuckleheads.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.